Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting initiative by MIT ID Innovation Program. On behalf of Director Innovation Program, Associate Professor Harshad Desai, the core team, the alumni, and the cohort of 2020-21, we are grateful to be safe and amongst you all hosting the session today. For those who are joining us for the first time, we'd like to share that MIT stands for the ever progressive, 4-decade young Maharashtra Institute of Technology. ID stands for MIT's 15-year young pioneering Institute of Design. MIT ID's latest contribution to strengthening the global innovation ecosystem is the one-year innovation program, which focuses on the four pillars of design, business, technology, and humanities. The key features and differentiators of this one-year course are a hands-on, highly customized, pro-practical, project-heavy based learning, deep immersions, and humanities. We tested our agility, adaptability, resilience as a team when we seamlessly delivered value-add experiences to our student innovators and the innovation ecosystem at large via close to 50 industry interactions across the disruptive year. More value-add series lined up as I speak. As promised, our open online courses focusing on innovation essentials have been launched this quarter. The duration of these certificate courses will range from 1 month to 9 months, in addition to our full-time one-year campus-based course. Our master classes begin on 21st November 2020. Moving on to today's session, we welcome our guest faculty innovator, Mr. Rishu Yadav. He's a learning and creativity workshop designer. He's a coach, a former tennis player, an alumni of Hyper Island, UGL, and Collin College. A problem solver, a teacher of the science of creativity and its application to leadership and teams. With a diploma in digital business management from Hyper Island, which focuses on innovation processes, he has spent a decade conducting learning experiences through workshops and lectures. 20 plus years of experience in tennis with national championship in American Collegiate Tournament and All-American Athlete honor, of which 15 plus years has been spent in coaching juniors in Sweden, achieving national team championships and top rankings. He started to apply creativity and design thinking as a teaching and methodology to tennis players and classes. This is our 46th industry interaction this season, and I, Priya Dhawan, Head of Collaborations, Branding and Outreach at the MIT ID Innovation Program, welcome you all once again to this thoughtfully curated innovation journey. Please do read the chat for other important pointers that have been shared. I'd now like to invite Professor Harshad Desai to say a few words.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Priya, and thanks, Rishu, for joining in for this wonderful session today. I think it's becoming more and more important for all of us to really look at these times where how do you teach very hands-on and practical subjects like design and innovation in this new environment. So I think that's the whole attempt that we at MIT ID have been doing. And more than a pivot from a classroom to an online, we are looking at this whole activity as a very long-term sustainable initiative in its own way, and really trying to find out that how do we leverage the power of these new technologies and whatever new possibilities have been created. And that's the whole agenda. And with this background, we are coming up with few online master classes which will be focused on these topics which are relevant to everybody, and they are becoming more and more important both for professional success and for personal fulfillment. So I think in today's time, learning has to be that holistic. Learning has to always be embedded into the larger realm of life, and it should eventually help all of us to lead a meaningful life. And these are some of the things which we thought that we can weave together, and then create these small modules to begin with. And as we go along, there will be longer and bigger programs which will be made available on our platform. And few of them which we are starting with, and Rishu, with his very interesting experience and background, has kind of put together a fantastic course which we are launching in the month of November. So this webinar is essentially to understand what the program is going to be about, a bit of his approach, what somebody can expect in the masterclass that is going to be conducted. And yeah, I think that's about it from my side. And over to you, Rishu. I hope we all are able to generate a healthy discussion today, and understand more about what's in the offing from MIT ID innovation side. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Harshit. Thank you, Priya. And hi, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome. So yeah, my name is Rishu, and yeah, I have been starting to conduct workshops for MITD for the student batch of 2020. And my background is basically in creativity. So I have been studying creativity for about 10 years. And that's basically what we're going to see how much we can cover about in those 10 years time. And I would just like to say that there's not going to be any slides that I'm going to use. It's going to be more like a storytelling based with 3 parts, basically the background, and then after my experience of creativity as a subject, and also a little bit about the course that I'm going to conduct later on online. So that said, I can start with saying that I was born in Delhi, and I got to move to Sweden permanently when I was about 5 years old. And there it was quite interesting how things were different between Delhi and Sweden. I might not have realized it that much, but the whole system in Sweden is, as we know, if you might know, socialistic. And that has led to Sweden becoming one of the top countries when it comes to innovation. Innovation in Sweden, basically the index, International Innovation Index, Sweden always rank in the top 5. And if we look in the top 10, basically it's about 100 million population of those countries that are in the top 10 in the innovation index. And that's quite interesting. When we look into India, that's basically not even 10% of the Indian population. And also many other larger countries that they are missing out on an innovation capacity in the country compared to these top 10 countries, which Sweden is always for the past 10, 20 years been ranked in the top 5 in the innovation index. So I will be able to share a little bit about my experience growing up in Sweden, and that will give an insight to also how the creative and innovative culture has become what it is in Sweden today. So when I was 5 years old, basically I moved to Sweden, and the big difference there is that, number one, the population is very less in Sweden. It's a big country, but it's now in today's time about 9-10 million people living there. So growing up in Sweden, everything was different. I remember actually starting in nursery in India and how the whole situation was in learning here. And when I came to Sweden, basically the studies were so simple that I didn't understand what it was good for actually. The best part about school in Sweden was that, for example, there would be all sort of toys and balls and bats available for everybody. There would be a very rich, playful atmosphere growing up in Sweden. And the school was very promoting in that way. So already from first grade up to 6th, 7th grade, the whole education is very, how would I say, playful, in the sense of having a lot of breaks, a lot of field trips, and a very healthy atmosphere, and promoting painting and arts very much. And so for example, also the free time in Sweden is very safe. Basically, we could roam around anywhere, play in the forests. And in Sweden, it's quite interesting. The summers in Sweden, they are very long. Basically, the days are very long. And there will be sunlight for about 20 hours. So the sun would start setting around 10 p.m. They would start setting, and it will be not fully dark, but then again around 2 a.m. the sun will be fully up. So as children in the summer, when we had 3 months vacation almost, we would be able to roam around and be very playful very easily there. We got to build tree houses and play in the forest a lot. And it's quite interesting how the nature, outside nature, is very much related to one's creative development. The more nature we surround us with basically helps us to grow creatively. And it's even scientifically proven. Even Carl Jung has spoken about that, the importance, especially for people who live in the cities. So depending on where all you have grown up is a very important to see how that correlates to one's creativity. So basically it is that if we grow up in the cities, we need to practice creativity more in a way to understand it, because there's a higher pace in the cities. And yeah, that might not give that opportunity to practice creativity, for example, growing up on the countryside. And same thing in Sweden, actually. There's a lot of my classmates, for example, who were from the countryside. I grew up in a very small city named Kalmar in South Sweden. And the people who lived on the countryside, they would be actually able to have a lot more creative fields. A lot of them had, for example, horses. A lot of them had the sea right next door. So they would be able to learn swimming and so on the countryside. Compared to the cities, there will be more, how would I say, urban sort of play. So that even in Sweden, one can see the difference between the countryside and the city. And also one interesting thing is, even in the winter time for the children, we would be out playing all the time, but in the winter time it would be reversed basically. So in the winter time there will be maybe 4 hours of sunlight, and the rest would be basically evening and night. And in the winter time there will be so much snow also. So for us as kids, it would be very much a playful atmosphere. There would be maybe 1.5 meters of snow, and we'd be able to dig tunnels. We would be able to slide with what do you call it, skis and different snowboards and ice skates. So basically, for growing up in Sweden, what it really helped is that the availability for creative tools, as we can call them, toys, if we want to use another words, things to interact with and learn and develop different skills. And so that is the basic, how would I say, the learning in Sweden for a child is very creative in that sense. And even the education is not that, how would I say, competitive. It is a very open atmosphere. So it was not that much pressure also coming from the schools. And from there on, basically, I started to play tennis also. And I got the opportunity to play a lot of tennis. And it's very interesting how before learning about creativity as a subject, I've been practicing creativity already so much in many different things, doing everything from water ink printing to, how would I say it, make my own wax candles, just as a child, trying out woodwork, trying out sewing, and different things in Sweden would let me basically practice a lot diversity in creativity. And when it came to tennis, that is basically what I picked up. And after stopping at the 6th and coming into 7th grade, one interesting thing happened in Sweden when I grew up. And that was basically that the playfulness from everybody up to the 6th grade, having snowball fights to, amazing adventures, that slightly turned more, started to become more and more less when I started in the 7th grade and going up to 8th grade. And it's a very significant change. all the children becomes teenagers, and suddenly one of the first things I noticed is that suddenly everybody started to care what we were wearing. As children, we would wear anything and just go out, play, just like we do here also. Uh, but suddenly at that age, people became more conscious about what they're wearing and these sort of personal traits. And thanks to tennis, I had an outlet to practice creatively and to really ponder my thinking and work on those aspects. And later on, I had the opportunity to be able to go to US and study in college there in Dallas and play for the tennis team there in the college. And it was very interesting. Up till that time, I was about 21 years old, 20 years old. And it was very interesting that my tennis had really given me that forum, that sort of space to practice creative and to have fun, just like a child. And it's similar to basically artists who attack a paper and really practice their creativity. And that led to me playing doubles and playing with a lot of team members. There we were about 10 people in the team, and top 6 would play in the singles, and then there would be doubles also. And I practiced, I mean, I played matches with everybody, but it was my partner in the end for the nationals became a person who was not even in the top 6. Basically, he was outside the main match roster. And it was just a few tournaments that we played, and it gone very well. And then we stepped into playing in the championship, the national championships there for junior college. And it was very interesting that our teamwork that we created became very creative. It became a very fun experience for both of us, and we had a lot of fun. And what we also did was actually we challenged each other very creatively, and that gave us a very big edge over all the other teams. We were, I think, about 7 seeded, so there were about 6 other teams that were higher ranked than us. And all the way through, what we would do is we would communicate with hand signals. So before the point, we would discuss what we're going to do, and we would use hand signals as communication as well. And that would tell us what is going to happen and how it's going to happen. And we apply this all the time. And just like a chess player would plan moves ahead, we would design every point that we would play into our favor and see what all possibilities and outcome can come from this shot and that shot. And from that, basically calculating the whole rallies, and that led us actually to get the championship. And from there, what happened is after the second year in college, I tore my ligament in my knee and I got injured, which is quite interesting situation because that meant that I cannot play tennis for about 6 months. And so what I did was I left college and moved back to Sweden. And then I signed up to Hyper Island. And at Hyper Island, there was a very interesting, I've heard about that. It was a very creative school. And the word creativity has been mentioned to me a lot of times. I've heard coming from others to me also that I'm a very creative person or things like that. We might hear also, all of us. But what creativity really is, I didn't have that good of a concept, but I knew that our Hyper Island is a creative institute. And I applied for that. I had a friend who had been there also, and he recommended it. And from there, basically, in the very beginning, I think it was the first or second month of my education there, I got into the workshop. Two of my mentors, they came and did a workshop there for us. It was about 4 days about creativity and the idea process and design thinking. And that gave me a whole new spectrum of creativity as a subject. And I got very, very happy and excited that there's actually a subject and finally I'm going to learn about it. And this was about 2010. I graduated from Hyper Island, and already I have started to conduct workshops for my classmates and other representative times where Hyper Island were going for events. And that graduating after Hyper Island, I was again very excited, and I have done a lot of workshops for different universities and institutes and schools. And then the more I have dug into this subject of creativity, the more I've learned about the different aspects and the diversity and the dynamics of creativity, and led me to understand problems also. And having a background coming from India and been to India several times, I really understood that the most problems are actually that I can interact with right now is in India compared to Sweden, for example, where there is every road is basically perfect in Sweden. If I would just give a difference how I see it. Right now I'm in Delhi, and honestly it is like the total opposite. The percentage of good roads in Sweden compared to the bad roads in India, percentage wise, is equal for each country. And so basically, naturally, I just felt that this is a perfect thing I have learned here in Sweden, and I have to continue, and I think India would be a very good place. So in 2015, I moved to India for the first time, for spending time and trying to get into this subject. But back then it was very tough to get people interested into that creativity can actually help the company or the organization to grow and actually be beneficially, because what has happened here in India is that money is the center point in a way. That if you can show that yes, creativity will get the um, get money into the company or to the organization, then we will apply it. Otherwise, if it's just something that later on might come into use and create money and generate that, if the whole team will learn, if I cannot present those facts, then that is not the most interesting thing. People would rather have sharper managers or and so on. So maybe I presented it in a wrong way, yet I think that understanding of creativity was not that attractive back in 2014, 2015. And so basically I kept my practice. I went and checked with different places. I did a few workshops here for some design companies, and I even did a workshop for I think third graders, something like that, which was very spontaneous and very fun. The energy that these kids got in the classroom when we were practicing creativity was almost like I felt that it was a freedom for them. And so while staying here in India and realizing and learning also, because I have gotten to a certain point about what creativity is and how that can be conducted into different workshops, I also noticed that the Indian culture, the people here are very, very highly creative, and the tolerance level is immense as well here in India. And given that, why is it that India is not in the top 10 countries for innovation? Now, these charts might be done in different ways, different things that they are taking into consideration, the GDP and so on. But the people in India is very culture. The nature in India is very, very highly creative and diverse. And yeah, so that is basically what I have learned about India, and my research basically in India has taught me a lot extra, which is maybe not yet even that much available in Sweden or in US. Basically, it is the aspects of more advanced creativity that I learned about here in India, and that comes into, for example, meditation and these sort of aspects, that how a culture can be so much nature focused and grow to become very, very creative. So that is basically my background. And I would like to make a pause here. And now I would like to ask everyone to, if you have a paper and pen, to write down one question, that what is it that I would like to learn or know about creativity. And after we have written down this question, please type it also into the chat. And we will have about 1 minute or 2 minutes for this. So if everybody can just type down, think a little bit, about what is it that I would like to learn about creativity, and then you can write it down in the chat box also. And then we're going to continue into next part, which is basically about what is creativity and a little bit about the aspects there. So I will be waiting for a minute or two. So anybody who have thought about something, that what is it that I would like to learn about creativity, feel free to type it down in the chat. We are going to have a longer Q&A session also later on also after, but right now is the question is what is that I would like to learn about creativity or know about creativity. Good, we have one question here, Naresh Shivani. Why are employees here not able to be creative? Good question. Can we, this is for everybody's own also, just write down anything that we like to, what hinders their creativity? Good question. Anyone else who has a question who would like to share? Just please write it down in the chat box. And we have one more here. I have lost touch of being creative and I don't know why. Okay. Do people really understand the meaning of creativity as they associate creativity or to being artistic? Very good question also, Naresh. Thank you. So now I can just start introducing basically what the content is. So basically the research I have done, the search and research that I have done for the past 10 years to understand creativity as a subject and how companies or individuals or organizations or even team can basically harness this thing called creativity. So creativity, basically, it is a power. Just like we have some sort of electric power that can generate the lamp to be lit and so on. The creativity is how we see it is as a power. And how this is concentrated, for example, into design thinking, it is to generate ideas. So the creative power is to be able to look into our mind and intellectually be able to explore our mind to find connections that can bring out ideas. So a Harvard professor, for example, mentioned that in one day, the average person has about 60,000 thoughts. And now when we look into advanced creativity and creativity as a subject, is like what type of ideas are coming out, and we act on some thoughts and some not, and what is it that really makes these thoughts turn into better thoughts, so better ideas compared to not being able to come up with ideas. So here we have a few more questions. Very good. Is creativity a childhood only skill? How can it be extremely generated and enhanced? Very good question also, Vandana. And so basically creativity as a power is a very dynamic power. And what it really helps us with is to understand, or more better word is to learn. And the more creative we are, the faster we can learn things. And the faster we learn things, the faster we can create innovations for that learning. And the main problem is that maybe we do lose the connection to our creativity because we stop practicing it. What naturally happens in this society is that we sometimes become very much within our box. The knowledge that we have, we never doubt it. The basically not the knowledge, but the information that we get, we never doubt it or look it from a creative perspective. Like, for example, if I'm eating at McDonald's, for example, is that a healthy food or not? If I'm not able to decide that and see it from a creative way, that what is the benefit from this, or how can I use it in a good way? Is there a possibility, or should I take something else that has a higher creative worth, basically? And that sort of creative worth is what we call creative quotient. So just like we have IQ, intelligence quotient, we also have a creativity quotient, and that can be applied into anything and any subject. And that way, if we learn how to basically look at things creatively, we will be able to see how we can also guide ourselves in our lives to make better decisions. And that goes back again to, for example, tennis or chess, that what is the best move with what I have? And that whole core thinking really helps us to grow creatively. And basically it is as a practice. We will go to the gym, we will read books for making our intellectual much stronger, yet we really never analyze of how am I creative. And some very often also we don't understand the subject of creativity. It is about the self-learning, basically, and self growth. So we would like to have a creative growth, and for that we would like to align ourselves every day to become more creative, not only just to stay on a stagnant level of having a very good comfort, but to be able to push our comfort zone, not need to step out of our comfort zone, yet to be able to push our creative comfort zone. And for example, when we apply creativity and really think about the process of doing things, for example, in learning, if we can, if I'm going to teach anyone tennis, I would be able to teach it in a very short time. Instead of going through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 process, we will be able to, with creativity and that sort of understanding, develop much faster in learning. For example, there are tools in language learning. So normally we would go to a classroom and we would learn maybe in a whole semester basic of any language. That sort of basic can be even learned, spoken language can be learned in 2 weeks time, depending on what is the process of learning and how am I approached to that subject, how much am I really into becoming that subject and challenging myself in different ways. So basically the 4 main skills that we need to develop to become more creative is, if I'm going to just name them, it is listening skill. Listening skill is one of the most important because of the attention. Otherwise, listening is one of the fastest also and easily available. Even writing is one of the most important skills. To be able to write down things and keep that as a practice will be able to enhance our capability to think creatively, and also to write down ideas more frequently. Because a lot of time what happens is that ideas come to our minds, and as fast as they came, as fast they will go. So that these 2 skills of listening and writing. And the third one is walking. Walking is a very creative exercise as well, because walking really gives us a whole spectrum of spontaneous in, I would say, information, in a way, in things that we take in through our senses. And that helps our mind to grow, and we'll be able to associate and practice association as well, very good in walking. And then we also have talking. So talking to people is very important, and practicing this also, to be able to trying to understand and ask questions to learn things is like the 4th skill that is very important to become better in creativity. And so that is like the basics of creativity, is basically to keep developing ourselves. What often happens is that we get into a sort of comfort zone and we stop practicing creativity in our daily lives. And that is basically what this whole course that we have in these 3 chapters, which is basically an introduction to creativity, creative leadership, and creative teams. And the 3rd chapter is advanced creativity. And in this is basically a self practice of leadership and creativity, if we will say. And the main object is to enhance it, the creativity. So right now, I think that is what I had in presentation, and I hope it was clear, the journey and in my background and the research that I have done, and yeah, to understand a little bit more about creativity. And so yeah, basically that is what I have as a presentation, and we will continue now with some questions. And I will take these questions first, and then we can open up for a creative Q&A, if that is all right, Priya.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Please go ahead.
All right. So we have a first question here by Naresh Shivani. Why are employees here not able to be creative? What hinders their creativity? So the 2 main factors here in India is basically the competition. A lot of people feel that competition is something that um, triggers their creativity and so on. But with research and also the search that I have done, I have come up with that competition in a way with oneself is totally fine. One can challenge oneself in total. But to start competing, even in tennis, when I am playing a tennis match and I go in for that sort of competition of winning and losing, then suddenly that fear that comes up holds back the creativity and the way of exploration. Take away that competition, and it is on a whole total new level of creativity that is going to be displayed. Even at Wimbledon in England, the grass tournament, there's a board for the players just up before the court entrance, basically where they step out, and it says that if you can take winning and defeat, this is like in a very short form, if you can take winning and defeat in the same way, basically that is the success. So then you have mastered basically tennis, that tenacity. So number 1 is the competition here in India is much more than in Sweden. There is competition there also in the workplace, but that definitely hinders. And the second would be the creative space. The time and space given to creativity is very few companies, I guess, in India that really has that space. And that also I have applied in a tennis club in Stockholm while I was working there, to create not only a tennis court where the children can be, but there needs to be some sort of library or creative space where children can learn more diverse things, so they can associate that with their tennis. So anything that I learn, even in today's time, I connected with tennis and how that relates to tennis. It can be anything, and I can apply it into tennis, and that makes my tennis knowledge or creative level, the creative quotient for my tennis always grows. And I do this daily for tennis and even for the workshops. So these 2 main factors, competition and the creative space and time, is not available here in India that much. I hope that was a clear answer. I have lost the touch of being creative, and I don't know why. That is totally fine. The main thing is that you know that you have lost touch. The why is not needed that much. The better thing is to focus on how can I be creative again, and that is the fun thing. So it's totally fine to come to that stage that I have lost touch to creativity, because now we can be very happy that we know about it and we are aware of it, and now we can actually practice it. So how do we practice it? Now, if we look into, for example, an artist, a painter, and one thing that I also discovered when I got to know about the subject of creativity is that it's not just artists and this field that is creativity. Creativity, all of us are creative. All our life we have been creative. So now it is about how much do we practice creativity in our daily lives, in our daily hours, how much do we practice it? And one of the best ways is actually, like I mentioned, to practice these 4 skills of listening skills, writing skills, walking skills, and also talking skills. And for example, if you're going to take writing, it can be anything. Doodling, even if it might not seem serious, it is a very, very good practice, because if we start to doodle today on 1 page or 2, 3 pages every day, then when we reach to the 1,000th page, those doodles will look very, very much more creative than the first doodle pages. So writing is very good practice. It's easily handled. Listening skill is a little bit tougher to practice, but also very easily available. One can be in a very quiet space and just see what type of sounds we are hearing, or how far we can listen to anyone, and how long time we can actually pay attention to listening to someone. To practice these different skills, it is very important to be conscious about it, that we get into that creative space, that there is no competition, there is no failure in this, there's no rights or wrong. I am just going to challenge myself and see how far I can push my listening skills or my writing skills. And in writing, for example, we can write in reverse, we can write mirror, we can write speed. In different aspects of writing, we can do with different paint brushes, with inks, and so on and so on. So the main thing, when we have reached that spot that I don't feel creative, we should really push and be happy. Be like, yes, I have acknowledged this, and now I can continue to practice that. So I hope that gives a good answer. Then we have a question here for Vandana. From Vandana: is creativity a childhood only skill? How can it be extremely generated and enhanced? I think I have mentioned a few things, and definitely it is something that childhood is something that we have developed and develop and develop, but there is a gap. Okay, when I was a kid growing up in Sweden, we would make bow and arrows from the forest, and I think here also is a lot of kids that have done that. Now the thing is that we stopped doing these things. And the same thing with my tennis, for example, I keep it in my mind all the time. So even if I get a 1 or 2 weeks time to get in shape a little bit more, I will be able to play on a very good level, because I have practiced creatively in my mind tennis. So what happens is that if we lose the things that we learned when we were children, for example, the bow and arrow, that if I make even one bow and arrow each year, that thing will develop and develop and develop and become more creative, and I will be more knowledgeable about the wood grains, or the thread that I'm going to make, or what type of distance and arrows and how to make them, and just become more and more diverse in that subject. So the best way to generate it is to apply this sort of thinking into everything that we do, and everything that we interact with, that how can this be improved. So yeah, very good. And yeah, that thanks for that question. um, is there any, yeah, Priya ma'am, can you maybe should ask if there's more questions that we can have?
Sure. Thank you, Rishu. I think
Thank
great
you.
set of questions from the audience, and of course, aptly answered by you as well. Yes, you can take your sip break. Yeah.
Thanks.
Would you be able to throw some more light on the different techniques of creative thinking? Like, this is something so inherent to us, right? I mean, it's something that we're sort of born with.
Yeah.
And then right along the way, we sort of forget about it. And over and above what you've mentioned, is there something more that people can delve into? And then how does it really help in the innovation process? Like right now, we're only talking about creative thinking, but then how does it really lead to innovation? And maybe some examples that you can share with the audience.
Yeah. So the creative thinking, when we look into design thinking, and it's about solving problems, and this sort of problem solving skill is definitely with us from the beginning. As we grow up, we learn about critical thinking in that sense of solving problems, and we do it daily, and we do it all the time. Now a lot of these problem solving has been automated in us, and because of that, if we look into a company, for example, the speed of innovation in a company is depending on how the creative minds are working. Now, if we have a lot of creative people, but they don't have any sort of or one creative person in the company, and we don't have a process that invites that person to share ideas, then it will be very tough to get any ideas out there for the development of innovation in the company for a product or service. So how creative thinking really helps is that when we go into a process of what we call a double diamond, which is basically a divergent and convergent phase, where we brainstorm and generate ideas and select ideas. What we would like to have in that process is a lot of ideas. And what we also would like to have is an atmosphere in our companies or in our life, basically, where we can actually not dump might be the wrong idea, but basically just throw up ideas. We need to create that sort of space. And the creative process in the beginning, the divergent thinking phase, basically to generate the ideas that to be able to get 1,000 ideas out in, let's say, 1.5 hours time, that the process, how would I say, to generate these ideas will be helping, how would I say, the creativity power basically is what's going to generate that flow of ideas coming out. Now, with different principles in the brainstorming phase, as for example, quantity before quality, think big, say yes, and build on each other's ideas. These all promotes that sort of a flow of ideas from everyone. And have we practiced these sort of principles and these sort of skills of writing and listening and talking and walking, then that comes again as a very natural process for us, and we will be able to share these ideas and get the best ideas out there. Now, if we only have, for example, in tennis, basically the speed of the ball is around 150 to 200 kilometers per hour. Sometimes there's just a split second to react for a shot. So then again, that is a problem solving process as well. There's a divergent thinking and there's a convergent thinking happening. And because of a lot of creative, how would I say, practice of problem solving and building on ideas and so on, then that phase becomes very easily to select a good idea, which will result in winning the point. And in a process at a company, for example, if the whole team is very integrated with each other and the creative process and practice, then the ideas that comes out in that flow is going to be very much higher in the creative quotient, if that makes sense. And the selection of those ideas, that's as well a very creative process to be able to select the best idea for the best that certain challenge or problem or situation. So yeah, these skills that I mentioned, the 4 skills, talking, listening, walking, and writing, as well as a few creative principles, as think big and say yes, and build on each other's ideas, and to have quantity before quality. So these things that we learn in these workshops, this is something that we have to apply in our daily lives as well. And then when we get into the companies, basically like how a tennis player goes to practice on the practice court, and then when the tournament is ready, we step out on the court and we basically bring all those skills that we have practiced with and work on giving the best ideas out there. So I think, does that make sense also?
Yes, yes, it does.
Creative process, yeah.
Sure. Thank you. I guess we can wind up here and we can entertain more questions offline.
Sure.
To the audience, for more questions, do reach out to us offline on LinkedIn. Special thanks to our guest speaker, innovator, Mr. Rishu Yadav, for
Thank you
his
very much.
time and sharing the value-add takeaways from his innovation journey. We'd like to invite you all to our next session on the coming Friday, which is an introduction to a certificate course in social innovation. This is on 6th November, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Our guest faculty is Mr. Unmesh Kulkarni. Mr. Unmesh Kulkarni is a founder member of Oceanic Circles, a collective for social innovation and impact. Previously, he has handled global and regional design leadership roles at Honeywell and Philips, working across continents, living in India and China. Prior to that, he co-founded a multidisciplinary design consultancy and appropriate technology lab, Design Matters. So do tune in when you can. This curated series will feature a variety of industry thought leaders and creative thinkers like Rishu, who are a part of the global MIT ID innovation ecosystem. MIT ID Innovation Program recognizes the need to reach out to thousands of aspiring innovators and help them gain the skills and knowledge required for their dreams to become a reality. So we encourage you to connect with us via our social channels to know more about the MIT ID Innovation Program and upcoming engagements and online courses. For those interested in becoming top-notch innovators, we invite you to explore our courses that will fast-track your career path. So log on to www.mitidinnovation.com to kickstart your innovation journey with us. Let's learn, innovate, lead. Yours innovatively, Priya Dhawan signing off. To everyone, stay connected, stay safe, and keep innovating every day. And thank you once again, Rishu. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope you had a good time. And I very much appreciate MIT ID also. Thank you very much. And yeah.
Thank you all.
Hi. Thank you.